Okay, picture this. A single mission that spans almost 1,000 years. It's a story packed with unbelievable faith, intense resilience, and a massive cataclysm that literally hit the reset button on the entire world. Today, we're diving into this explainer to unpack the source material behind the Islamic narrative of Prophet Nuh. We're going to explore the really profound details of a journey that completely changed the course of human history.
Now, according to Islamic tradition, every single person walking the earth today is a direct descendant of this one guy. So to really grasp this, we have to understand the sheer scale of his journey. I mean, how does someone endure nearly a millennium of constant rejection? And what does this epic narrative actually teach us about patience, devotion, and ultimate salvation? Well, let's find out.
Part 1. The Rise of Idolatry.
To really understand Noah's mission, we first have to look at the world he was born into. The sources state that for generations after the first human, Adam, humanity worshipped just one God, and this monotheism kept going through prophets like Seth and Enoch. But then, centuries after Enoch passed away, there was this massive ideological shift. The texts explain that people were feeling profound grief over losing their righteous leaders, and that grief was gradually manipulated by Satan. Basically, society was steered away from monotheism and pushed into idol worship. And that is exactly when Nuh is called to prophethood, to step in and restore that original faith.
The text actually gets super specific here, outlining that this whole deviation started with 5 key figures: Wad, Suah, Yaguth, Yauk, and Nasr. And the wild part is, these were originally really pious, highly respected men. But when they died, the community was just so heartbroken that they built statues simply to remember them. It was completely innocent at first. But, over generations, that original intent got totally lost. The commemorative statues transformed into literal idols that people started worshiping as gods, actually believing these stone figures could grant them wealth and solve their problems.
Part 2. 950 Years of Preaching.
This brings us to the absolute core of Noah's prophetic arc, and it is defined by a level of patience that is honestly hard to even fathom. The sources place a huge emphasis on his relentless dawah, which basically means inviting or calling people to embrace divine truth. The texts use this incredibly vivid imagery, describing how he spun like a millstone, just preaching day and night. He tried talking to them in public, he tried private conversations, but his society was so stubbornly against him that when they saw him coming down the street, they'd literally cover their faces with their clothes and physically plug their fingers into their ears just to block out his voice.
And that brings us to a truly staggering number: 950. Noah preached to his people for 950 years. Just try to wrap your head around that for a second. For over 9 centuries, generation after generation, father to son, they passed down this deeply ingrained hatred for him. Grandfathers would literally pull their grandsons aside and warn them not to listen to the madman Nuh. And yet, he never gave up.
It sets up this incredible contrast between the two sides. On one hand, you have the arrogant elite who just relentlessly mocked Nuh. They dismissed him because, well, he was just a regular human, not some magical angel. They made fun of him because his followers were mostly poor, working-class youth, not the wealthy VIPs of society. But look at Nuh's response. He stayed totally calm and steadfast. He told them flat out, "I don't want your money, I am just an honest messenger." And he made it clear there was absolutely no way he was going to drive away his humble followers just to make the rich folks happy.
But eventually, you reach a breaking point. After 950 years of this, Nuh receives a divine revelation. No one else from his people is ever going to believe. Their hearts are just completely sealed. Realizing that leaving the society intact would only end up corrupting future generations, Nuh utters this powerful, world-altering prayer: "My Lord, leave not upon the earth any inhabitant from among the disbelievers."
Part 3. The Ark of Salvation. With his prayer accepted, it was time to get to work. And according to Islamic tradition, building this ark was a monumental, completely miraculous construction project. You have to remember, humanity had literally never built a ship before. So Nuh was guided step by divine revelation. The texts note that he actually had to plant teak trees right in the middle of the desert and then wait for them to grow before he could harvest the massive planks. And you can only imagine the mockery he faced. The elites would stroll by laughing, saying things like, "Hey Nuh, yesterday you were a prophet and today you're a carpenter? Where exactly is the water for this giant boat in the middle of the desert?"
The texts give us some mind-blowing specifications for this ark. It was roughly 1,200 cubits long and 600 cubits wide, and coated entirely in tar to make it completely waterproof against the incoming, mountain-crushing waves. It was designed as this brilliantly organized 3-story floating fortress. The top level was reserved for the birds, the middle level was for the humans, and the bottom level safely housed all the animals and predators.
Part 4. The Great Flood.
So everything was set, and the ultimate deadline had arrived. But the big question was, how would they know it was actually time to get on the boat? Well, according to the tradition, the divine alarm system was incredibly unique. It was the tanur. This was a traditional oven, a place you'd obviously expect to be filled with dry, burning fire. But miraculously, it suddenly boiled over with water. This was the undeniable signal that the laws of nature were officially being upended, and it was the exact moment for the believers to board the ark.
Now, out of 950 years of relentless day and night preaching, the sources indicate that only about 80 people boarded that ark, along with a pair of every animal who were guided there by divine instinct. If you actually do the math on that, it's less than one person saved per decade of preaching. It's wild to think about. Yet, those 80 people were the seed of a brand new world.
As the waters erupted from the earth and the skies completely tore open, we get this deeply emotional, heart-wrenching climax. Noah sees his own son, Canaan, struggling out in the water. Noah calls out to him, pleading, "O my son, come aboard with us and do not be with the disbelievers." But his son arrogantly yells back that he's just going to climb a tall mountain to save himself. And right then, a massive wave sweeps the boy away. It's an incredibly tragic moment, but it drives home a huge theme in this narrative. Spiritual faith completely supersedes physical blood relations. In the end, salvation was only for the believers.
Part 5. A New Beginning.
After the utter devastation of the old world, the storm finally comes to an end with a divine command. The sky is told to clear up, and the earth is commanded to swallow all its water. The monumental ark safely and peacefully touches down on a peak known as Mount Judy. The surviving humans and animals step out into a completely cleansed world. They bring with them a message of peace, and it's a completely fresh start for humanity.
And this exact moment is why Nuh is universally known in these traditions as the second Adam. The sources state that the family lineages of all the other 80 survivors eventually faded out over time, which means all of humanity today traces its lineage exclusively back to Nuh's 3 surviving sons: Sam, the ancestor of the Arabs and Persians; Ham, the ancestor of the African nations; and Japheth, the ancestor of the Turks and Asian nations.
Part 6. The Eternal Reward.
The texts don't just give us a history lesson here, they use the story to draw a really profound contrast. They heavily emphasize that all the temporary pain of our earthly trial, the sickness, the aging, the sorrow, the inevitable death, it is all entirely replaced by the absolute perfection of Jannah, or heaven. Up there, death is eliminated completely, and all that worldly sorrow is swapped out for infinite peace and absolute joy.
And the sources paint this incredibly mesmerizing, highly specific picture of what that afterlife actually looks like. The faithful are rewarded with the ultimate, perfected attributes of the absolute greatest prophets. We're talking the majestic 130-foot height of Prophet Adam, the unparalleled beauty of Prophet Yusuf, the captivating musical voice of Prophet Dawood, the eternal youth of Prophet Isa, and the completely flawless, perfected character of Prophet Muhammad. It's essentially the ultimate all-star combination.
It really is an incredible conclusion to a massive epic of survival. So as we wrap up and reflect on all the material we've covered in this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. Ask yourself, how might the staggering 950-year patience, the incredible resilience, and the unshakable devotion of the second Adam inspire your own personal journey? How can it guide your own pursuit of truth today? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating narrative with me.